All right, everybody, welcome back to another Friday show. We've already got some of our regulars in the chat, so welcome back to all of you. Thank you for tuning back in. But if you're new to the show, just to give you a little summary of what we do here, we're here to answer all of your questions about NETGEAR products. If you want product suggestions, we're happy to help you with that. If you're having issues with your product, let us know in the chat, and we will help everybody out to the best of our abilities. I'm going to run through who each of us are, starting with myself. I'm Alec. I'm an interactive media specialist here at NETGEAR, and I do design on our website and social media. And with me, I have Michael and Ben. Michael, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Michael, technical marketing manager at NETGEAR. I spend a lot of my time playing with our beta products, doing a lot of product testing. I monitor a lot of the online reviews that we have. And when COVID isn't happening, I do a lot of the trade shows and do a lot of the one-on-one with people talking about our products. So I'm here to help out with any questions you got.
Cool. And on to Ben.
Hey, everybody. Yes, the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. I am Ben Acevedo. I am the digital experience manager for Nighthawk Pro Gaming Armor and our smart parental controls. Just excited to be back. I know it's been a little bit of a hiatus, and thanks everybody. Thanks for welcoming me back. It's exciting to be here. We only got an hour format, so let's get to it. So questions.
Totally. Yeah, if anybody has questions, drop them in the chat. We're definitely here to help out. But until we have questions, just wanted to shout out some of our regulars here. We have Kieran, Ryan, Dan, Kevin, Vanessa, and Ricky, all regulars. Razor, I think I've seen Razor in the chat before as well.
Yeah, I think so.
So we've got the whole team here.
Yeah, a full deck. I do want to say I want to quash the rumors that I've been waiting in line for an Xbox X. So that was not true, because otherwise I would have had an Xbox X, but I still haven't. And the interesting thing, just real quick on that, is on the PlayStation 5, Xbox X, Xbox S. I'm seeing from like the people that I play with, because of the fact that inventory has been so low, people don't really care to switch over. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I've felt no need to get one personally. I think a big shortcoming with the new consoles is console exclusive games. I mean, the big one for the PS4 was like a Spider-Man game, which it looks cool, but I mean, it's not like it's not like a Call of Duty or anything, you know. And the Xbox, I didn't even think did it even launch with an exclusive game?
Halo. I want to say that last Halo game.
Is that out? That's out?
No, not well. This new console, but not yet. But the last gen came with a It's the exclusives aren't making me jump. You know?
I think that's a big reason why they're not selling, because it's like, I mean, how many people have 4K TVs, you know, where it's like really worth it? Seems kind of, it's a hard sell. I wouldn't buy one personally as it is now.
Well, when I did buy my Xbox One X, it was 4K, and then I had to buy a 4K TV. It forced me to buy a 4K TV. It really didn't, but I in the back of my head, I was like, well, I'm not getting everything out of this. So I'm 4K ready. It's just, I just don't feel any need to jump over now, because I've tried 5 or 6 times to get any of those products, and it just ain't happening.
It's really not happening. So,
and I'm a PC guy myself, barely ever play consoles, so I really don't have a reason to buy one. And I've got the Quest 2, so that keeps me busy as well.
Yeah, I'm actually more interested in the Quest 2. I think I'm going to actually order it this week. I've been circling that. And on PC, there's that cool Viking survival game.
Valheim, yes.
Valheim that everybody is playing. And I feel that I am missing out. So my FOMO is...
well, You definitely should. I mean, it's easy to get into, and it's very forgiving when you die. You just have to run back to your body. And considering it's only got a 5-man team that is actually producing it, they produced a pretty good product. It's still
Yeah.
in alpha stage right now, but or early access, but it runs really well.
And well, we got a question coming up, but real quick, that 5-man team has outdone the Baldur's Gate team.
Oh yeah,
because that game is unplayable
Yep.
in its current state, and this game is pretty fantastic. Okay, so we got the XR1000 Universal Plug and Play is not working, and quality of service. I ran some tests on Ping Plotter. Any news update on the 0.53 firmware for the XR1000? It's being worked on. We have had some struggles with QA, mainly due to moving, teams around, and also, we're still in the pandemic, so that's kind of given us some delays. But it's on its way. And what I would say is, can you back off, like factory reset, and then reinstall that firmware and see if that works. That usually clears about 95% of the problems, when you have like something that was working in the firmware and suddenly isn't working in the firmware. Michael, you want to take the ball on that one?
No, that you pretty much covered it on that. And yeah, just have to see when the next firmware comes out.
Yeah, and we are working on that, on all the firmwares. We're still committed to taking the 700 and the 500 and the 450 for 3.0s to a great solid state. So we are continuing with the development on those.
Yep,
Definitely. I think I'm on the verge of getting an XR1000. I really want one.
well, I've got to say it's been rock solid. That's what I've been running with for more than a month now, for my work machine, including this stream, and I've had zero problems.
Yeah, I'm still really happy with mine. I'm a little less happy with my extender. I think something colossally went wrong with my extender, but I'll have to. I'm gonna dig into that. Any word on hybrid VPN on the XR1000? Yes, I do have word, but I can't say anything yet. We'll probably talk about some features in the near future. I can't give anything more than that as a time frame. So sorry about that. But as soon as I can talk about it, I will.
Cool. All right, let's see. We've got a question here from Ryan, who also says that he got a Xbox and a PS5. So,
oh man,
congrats to you. That's a feat in and of itself.
Yeah, that you unlocked. That's a pretty good unlock right there.
Totally. Okay, cool. So, question from Ryan is, what can I do to my XR500 to help multiplayer performance? There's a
Number
lot of
one.
things you can do. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
So number one with Xbox, get IPv6 enabled. Because Xbox Live and Xbox Party uses it with V6. With IPv6, it's a lot smoother. It's just a lot of information that's going back and forth, and if you're using IPv4, it's really taxing the amount of information that you can shove into those streams.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks. Welcome back, Ben and Alex. So thank you.
All right, and then some other things you can do. I think that's
Go
ahead.
I think for that is pretty good. What else would I do? If you're running Duma 2, have it as your priority device. If you're running Duma 3, then prioritize gaming. There's beyond that, you probably should be good to go. maybe enable universal plug and play. I don't know, Michael. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think UPnP is going to help out with the multiplayer performance. I'm assuming that that's online multiplayer and not LAN multiplayer. Yeah, other than that, the geofencing or whatever the new name is for that, possibly, bringing that in a little bit, maybe connecting up to servers that are a little bit too far, so your ping rate's a little higher, or someone else out there, their ping rate's a little too high.
And maybe using, your connection benchmarking, and also, with the geofence, just kind of pinging your nearest servers and finding out what's best in your neighborhood, basically. That could, and then connecting just to those servers, that could give you an edge.
Definitely. Also, if possible, hardwiring is always really great. If you have a good new-ish Ethernet cable, Cat 5e, Cat 6, both are going to do really well. Although we've had a lot of problems, we've had a lot of comments in the chat where we've given the answer of, updating your cable. If you're having some slowdowns with a wired connection, we often suggest updating your cable. So if it's like a really old cable from like 10 years ago, probably going to actually make it worse. So keep that in mind.
Very true. Yeah.
Yes.
I used to be a big cable collector, and now I kind of triage my cables with like either a bag or a piece of Velcro or something where I can write onto it and kind of give a time. So if it's like a 2-year-old cable or older, it gets tossed. And anything that is 2 years or younger, I'll keep around. So that way, you never have like an ancient cable that you plug in, and that, next thing you know, everything's, slowed down.
That's way too organized. I just look at the color of the cable. If it's a old gray cable, I know it's too old.
That's probably an easier way. So
or if like the rubber shielding on the outside's like all crinkled, you're like, oh, that's probably too old. Definitely.
If it's a round cable, it's probably too old. If it's one of the cool flat ones, it's probably a newer one.
I like those new flat ones. I use those as much as I can. Back when we were, in the office, there was cables lying around everywhere, and you could just grab them, which was nice. Not anymore.
Well, especially the throwaway cable box. We're actually, because we're NETGEAR and we have tons of products that have cables, we're constantly getting way too much cabling. And so a lot of that does actually get thrown away, and then it goes to recycling. So we have a big recycling box back in our warehouse where all the cabling goes. And whenever you need a cable, you can just walk back there, scrounge through it, find the cable you want, and 95% chance it's a perfectly good cable. They just had too many of them.
That's where I've gotten all of my cables. I remember back in my old house, my roommate had some really old like Cat 4 cables, and he like insisted I don't throw them away. And I'm like, I can just get you like as many Cat 6 cables as you want. Like, let's just throw these away. It was a little funny.
And I was going to make a comment to Vanessa when she asked about wire wrapped in oil paper. No, you don't want to throw those away. That oil makes the electrons flow faster. Perfect cable.
Perfect cable. It's perfect, especially if you're hooking it up to, your steam dynamo.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, we have a question here. Question is, hello, I have a Nighthawk R8000 and I had to revert to an earlier firmware to get gigabit speed from my ISP. Please confirm or deny that there is a patch available. We don't typically know for each SKU when there is a patch just off the top of our heads. There might be a KB article for that if
and unfortunately the R8000 is a very old product at this point. It was revved up to the R8000T, and even that is a fairly old product. So chances are there isn't. We can quickly look and see if there's anything on the support site, but I would doubt it.
Thinking that 1.0.4.62.
Actually, no, 6.8. Yeah, 1.0.4.68. And I'm quickly popping up the release note to see if it says when it was posted. That was last updated January 8th of this year.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
probably going to be the freshest
Mhm.
one. So
Yep. Yeah, that'll be the latest one that we have out.
If that's the
And
one that
so
you have
check.
to revert from, then you might want to stay on the reverted firmware until
Yep.
a new one comes out.
I always tend to stay about one back, because even though, it goes through, quality control and everything, there may be some edge cases, and I always tend to end up having something that's an edge case. So I tend to stay at least one back. But it is cool to have the newest and the greatest.
Yeah. But unless there's security patches that you're worried about, I like to stay on a firmware that I know works and is rock solid, and then I don't upgrade until I have a need for it.
Exactly. I'm of the same thought where, if something isn't working, then I'll look and see if I have to upgrade, or if something, is a security issue, then I'll upgrade.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got some more questions. First one from Razor. Razor asks, I wonder, in cases where someone cannot locate an access point centrally in their home, does NETGEAR sell any directional antennas such as bi-quad ones? I don't believe that we do. I believe they're all omnidirectional. Is that right?
They're all omnidirectional. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a specific need.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this kind of is a good segue into Brad's question, who was asking, I wonder what your thoughts are setting up an old router with an access point versus investing in mesh or buying extenders. Oftentimes you need to set up a mesh system if you can't put your access point in the middle of your home. We don't really have like a directional solution. That would be a little too niche, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and also mesh has really kind of come down in cost. There's a Nighthawk Wi-Fi 6 mesh that's like $200. So
yeah. And it also depends on, are you actually looking for a mesh topology where you've got the same SSID and password, or are you trying it, or do you mind or want to have two different network IDs? One of the biggest reasons for having a mesh network is that it all has the same SSID and password, so that you can roam around and you don't have to worry about which thing you're connecting up to.
Definitely.
And if you can wire an access point in, then you're set there. It will always have the same SSID and password. Otherwise, if you're going with the extenders, unless it's a mesh extender, you'll end up with a different Wi-Fi name and password, and it just depends on what you want. Mesh makes it very easy because you don't have to think about it, and it really gets a pain when you walk too far from the device you're connected to, but not far enough where your client is going to drop it. And with the mesh network, it automatically knows to hand it off to the next thing. Otherwise, you've got to get so far away the device says, I barely have a connection, fine, I'm going to drop this and I'm going to try to connect up to the next one on my list that has a better signal.
Definitely. And then to kind of, dive into the specifics of your question, Brad, should I set up my old router, that being an R7000, versus investing in mesh? I would say invest in mesh. The R7000, probably one of our best-selling routers of all time. It's a great router. It's reliable. It's great performance for cost. That being said, it's Wi-Fi 5. It's getting old. The hardware is old. It's got an old chip in it, so I always suggest in every show, and I sound like a broken record, but I mean, now's the time to buy Wi-Fi 6. It's time to move to the new technology. It's been tried and tested. It's come down in price.
Yeah, I would go with if you're looking at something that is comparable, the Nighthawk mesh, it's what, like $229, and it is AX, which is going to be 40% faster. It has better load capacity than the AC. Your speeds are going to be about the same, if not better. And it's an easy thing to set up. I've gotten a couple of those for family members, and it's super easy for them to set up.
Totally. So yeah, that would be our suggestion. If you want to, ball out, Orbi's a great system too. We do have
Yeah.
some budget Orbi options, but I think if you want like cost versus performance, I'd say Nighthawk, like the
Yeah, if you want the
MK83 maybe.
biggest bang for your buck, I would go with the Nighthawk mesh.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, cool. Next question here is from Dan. Dan says, on a mesh system, ask ask to only connect to 5G? So I think kind of this question
Yep.
is what, I don't know, Michael. It seems that you understand the question. You want to go ahead and get that one?
Yeah, he wants to be able to connect only to the 5G instead of having it decide which band the client's going to connect to. And the answer to that is it depends on the mesh system that you have. If you buy an Orbi mesh system, then no, because it has a single SSID for both the 2.4 and the 5, and it will decide which band the client's going to connect to. If you get the Nighthawk mesh system, it will keep the 2.4 and 5 separate, or you can actually turn that off, and then you can have those as two separate connections and only connect to the 5 gigahertz on the device that you want. And of course, if you wanted to only connect to 5 gigahertz on all of your devices, you just have to turn off the 2.4. But that would seem kind of silly because you'd be limiting your range.
Right.
But yeah, so with the Nighthawk mesh, you have that option. With the Orbi mesh, you don't. It's going to merge the 2.4 and 5 into just a single SSID, and you don't have the option to turn that off.
Yeah, that's using Smart Connect.
Yep.
You can shut off Smart Connect on the Nighthawks. Orbi is really is great for minimum amount of fuss, really, where you just kind of set it and forget it.
Yep, and it's designed for those people that not only aren't technically inclined, but really don't want to have to deal with the technology at all. They just want to have it running and not have to think about it.
Yep,
definitely. And I think this is kind of a good segue into Brad's comment here. He said, I'm needing to extend my Wi-Fi to reach security camera and other internet appliances. And then he mentioned that he wants to go with the Nighthawk mesh. Brad, you can actually, like we mentioned with Nighthawk, you can split the two bands. And oftentimes we'll suggest to people to use the 2.4 gigahertz band for IoT things, because a lot of these IoT devices, they need a very little trickle of bandwidth. But if you have a lot of them, that very little trickle times 20, it can start to bog down your network. Most of our devices are connecting to the 5 gigahertz, like our phones are connecting to the 5 gigahertz band. So
right.
It can be worth kind of partitioning your Wi-Fi into two different kind of fields.
And the reason for the 2.4 recommendation is because you only have imagine it like a highway. You only have so many lanes, and if your IoT stuff is taking up all those lanes, you could connect them in the 5, which is the faster speed, but we've all been on the highway where somebody's going 45 in the 70, and that's exactly what would be happening. And so it will slow down and bog the rest of your traffic. Mm-hmm. So keeping it on the 2.4 makes it a lot easier for stuff that is a lot more high priority traffic that you can keep on 5.
And a lot of the IoT devices these days still only use 2.4. They don't even support the 5. And that's another reason why you need to be able to split those two bands. Because like with Orbi, there have been people that have had problems with some of their IoT devices where it won't stick on the 2.4. Orbi tries to move them over to the 5, but their device only supports 2.4. And so it falls off the network. So being able to split those for the IoT devices definitely does help.
Yeah, and cameras, security cameras and other stuff like that, just because they're kind of always constantly checking in, but using very small amounts of internet. 2.4 and 2.4 has a larger range than 5. It's a lot more efficient to run those devices off of it.
Totally.
Yep.
All right, question from Vanessa. Can 2 Wi-Fi 6 routers work in tandem? I need one in the basement and one upstairs to cover more efficiently. Yes, if you set one to access point mode.
But then they're not actually working as a router.
Yeah, yes. At which point
I think
it'd be better to get an extender.
When she's asking about it being in tandem, that means having both of them acting as routers.
Mm.
And the answer is technically yes, you could do that. It gets a lot more technical to be able to get them both to work that way. One of the first things you have to do is you have to give each one of those a different static IP. So for instance, normally if your router is 192.168.1.1, that would be on one of them. And then your other router you'd have to do as 1.2 and make sure that you've reserved that so that both of them stay there. Then you have to go on each router and you have to separate the addressable IP range into half and half. So one of them might be from 3 to 120, and the other one would be 121 up to 254. And you'd also then have to make sure that both of them were pointing to just a single DNS server and a single gateway, the exact same one. So technically it can be done, but it starts getting really complicated trying to do that.
Yeah, not advisable. If you're looking, it sounds like you're looking for coverage. That would not be the best way to go. I think the best way to go would be to get a Wi-Fi 6 extender to pair with your Wi-Fi 6 router. And you could set that up via mesh. You could hardwire it as well, have a wired backhaul. Technically preferable, but a little more challenging, given that there's probably quite a bit of distance between, the router and the extender. So
it's out the window, down the wall, through another window. That's how you get there.
yeah, or you could use a power line, but we don't suggest that too often.
Yeah, unless it's on the same circuit on both upstairs and downstairs, your throughput goes down dramatically to even zero, depending on how bad of a loss there is. But power line can be really good if you're on the same circuit. It's a great way to move something without any sort of lag between.
Right.
But usually you end up finding you're on different circuits because every house has at least 2 different circuits in them, unless it's a tiny 400 square foot house.
Yeah, I use Powerline to run these streams because it's a reliable, solid connection versus over the air. And I use it to stream content as well. But if I was trying to download something fast, I'd probably go over Wi-Fi because I think I max out around 200-300 megabytes over Powerline versus I have gigabit internet, so I can get up to 1,000 megabytes over the air. But it's less consistent. So lots very nuanced use cases for that one, but could work for you maybe. Might be worth looking into. Brad says that it's time to move to Wi-Fi 6 and mesh. Thank you for your advice.
Well, thank you
Let
for
us
the
know.
question.
Yeah, let us know how it works out for you. And as always, if you need help, tune in on Friday, and we'll be here to help you out. Cool. Question from Razor. The 2.4/5 gigahertz on the same SSID makes me wonder, for the band steering, would it be possible to offer custom exceptions, such as setting it always to steer a specific MAC address to a specific band? I don't know if you can do that natively, but if you split up the two SSIDs into a 5 gigahertz and a 2.4 gigahertz, you could have your client device auto connect to only one of them.
But you do lose the benefit of the automatic band steering for all the other devices, not just the few devices that you want to connect in. It's definitely a good suggestion. It would be a nice way to have an exception list where you can put in a MAC address of one of the clients and say, okay, for this client, I always want it to connect to the 2.4 or the 2.5, and then all the other devices, it'll steer them to the best band.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Vanessa Kitty asks, oops, sorry, I skipped Noel's question here. Noel asks, hi, I have an EX7700 extender, and each time when I reboot it, it has to go through the setup process. I tried downgrading the firmware, but the fault still happens. Any suggestions? I am not terribly familiar with this specific product, so I don't have too much to say on that one. Michael or Ben?
Well, I can definitely say there's definitely something wrong here. If all you're doing is rebooting the extender, you should never have to go through the setup process again. It sounds like it's not saving its parameters once it's gone through the setup process. So when it power cycles, it just forgets those. That shouldn't happen. If you've already downgraded the firmware, that would have been one suggestion. I'm assuming when you downgraded the firmware, you also did a factory reset on it.
That would be my suggestion as well. Yeah.
Yep. So I would suggest doing the factory reset on it to make sure that you've cleared out all the values. Try it again. If you're still having the problem where you're having to run through the setup again, then I'd recommend you contacting us for some additional help, because honestly, that shouldn't be happening. It should never be forgetting those settings, because those are set in static memory, not dynamic memory. So it should be remembering the settings once it comes back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is I've had a couple of electrical events at my house, and I know that my extender has taken a nosedive. So you might want to, if there was anything like that, like sudden power loss or a power spike, that could also affect it as well. Mm-hmm. Especially on a certain, on a circuit or not. So yeah, I have an 8000, and it looks like I have to factory reset it because it is also forgetting its connection. So
gotcha. Yeah, try the factory reset. If it doesn't work, get in touch with our support team, and we'll help you as much as we can.
95% of the time, no joking aside, 95% of the time, you do a factory reset, put in the latest firmware, and most problems will go away.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. Vanessa Kitty's question is, what router to replace the R9000 then? One in basement is main, and I would then use two Wi-Fi router extenders, patio and first floor. All are hardwired. If you're going to be replacing your router, I would say go with the Wi-Fi 6 router, probably the RAX 80 or 120 or 200. If you really want the best of the best, RAX E500 has been released. I believe it's out of stock. It's a pretty hot router to have. It's the Wi-Fi 6E router. Yeah, I would say that would make the most sense. And then I would say, in addition to that, if you are looking down the road to upgrade your extenders, you could go with Wi-Fi 6 extenders. So you have a full Wi-Fi 6 mesh. That would be pretty sweet. That'd be the best way to go. Okay. NETGEAR AX1800 with mesh plug-in extenders. Where can I use my R7000 and separate 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz with separate SSIDs for IoT gear? Let's see here. I'm not fully understanding the question. The second part of your question regarding the R7000, the answer is you could absolutely separate them into two bands, and I'd sign the 2.4 gigahertz for your IoT gear. You have an R7000 currently, so if you do get an AX 1800, that's going to be a Wi-Fi 6 extender with a Wi-Fi 5 router. That's not going to, it'll work, but
it's not going to give you Wi-Fi 6 off the extender.
Right.
You're only going to get 5 off of it.
So it's a bit of a you're not really getting what you're paying for necessarily there if you don't have a Wi-Fi 6 router. But if you intend to upgrade your router at some point, it could be kind of a good preliminary purchase. Okay. Vanessa asks, the best of the best is which one? That's going to be the RAXE 500. Okay. Kevin asks, hi guys, not sure if I heard you right, but I have the MK63 Nighthawk mesh, and there's only one SSID, just like the Orbi. Yeah, so that's how it is default. We were saying that you could split it if you want to have a 5 gigahertz and a 2.4 gigahertz SSID separately, which can be useful in some cases for IoT devices.
Yeah, it's under Smart Connect.
Yeah. Kieran asks, are there any 6E clients yet? I think there's very few. So that's why we still kind of suggest Wi-Fi 6 a lot, because it's not like Wi-Fi 6 has suddenly become irrelevant. The turnover like between 6 and 6E was so fast. I mean, 6 came out and now there's 6E. So, we're just getting settled into 6. So I think it'll be quite a while before we start seeing that same kind of commonality to the 6E technology. But if you want it now for future proofing, it's great. So,
And it does look like on January 15th that Samsung released the first 6E Wi-Fi smartphones. So it looks like we're just at the point now where some of the manufacturers and phones would be the first ones to have it anyway, because they're the ones that tend to get refreshed very quickly. And so, yeah, it looks like at least Samsung's got one. Since it was January 15th, I would bet you probably can't even get your hands on it yet. But yeah, so the phones will be the first. And it says available in the US. Oh, actually, no, available in the US starting January 29th.
what
and is available for pre-order. So if someone wanted a 6E phone, it looks like Samsung came out with some. And I'm sure the others will be coming out, very soon.
Yeah, totally. So could be a good kind of preliminary investment, knowing that this technology is going to start coming out. But by no means is Wi-Fi 6 irrelevant now. I mean, still some of the best of the best.
I would say that 6E is an emerging technology, while 6 is now becoming the main technology.
Absolutely.
And that'll probably continue for the next year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Totally. Okay, question from Hamad here. Can you have two Wi-Fi printers on the same network? You should be able to, yeah.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have any problem with that at all.
Yeah, and usually whatever software you have on your PC or on your device is going to already be set up to print to one printer or another. And I know on a PC, then you get a list of printers that you can print to. But yeah, that's not a problem. And in fact, when you think about it, our work has how many different printers connected to it?
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh.
More than it ought to.
Yes.
I actually have two printers on my network. I have a cheapo Canon that's for just printing out, paper, homework assignments, that kind of crap. And then I have an Epson for printing photos.
Those Epsons are nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And I did see that, where was it? That was mentioned. Oh, that was it. Kieran said that the Oppo Find X3 may be 6E. First of all, I've never even heard of that before. I'm sure it's a regional type of phone, but I did look it up. And yeah, that actually is a 6E phone.
Oh, wow.
Cool. So it's on the way.
It is.
Okay. And then kind of a follow-up on that Wi-Fi printer question, is putting them on a 2.4 gigahertz better than a 5 gigahertz? I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to make too much of a difference. The only, Wi-Fi transmission that's going to be occurring is sending documents to it. It's not going to be like a constant trickle situation, as we've mentioned for most IoT devices. So
it's also dependent on your printer. My Epson can go 5, but the Canon is 2.4.
Yeah, it also depends on where your printer is located.
Yeah,
right.
If it's near enough, you can use the 5 gigahertz. If it's on the other side of your house, you're probably going to need to use the 2.4 because the 5 isn't going to get the signal's not going to be strong enough to get to it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Question from Mr. Tarika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm getting an error on my XR 500. The R app is not loaded yet. Please try again in a minute.
So simple thing on that. I would log out of the JuboOS. I would clear your cache for router login, and then try re-logging in again.
Yeah, I was gonna say reboot it.
It's a caching issue.
All right, but let's see. We got a clarification from Brad. Thank you, Brad. Sorry for the confusion. So AX8 1800 are just extenders. Well, before I read the rest of your question, I do want to clarify our naming at NETGEAR. It is really confusing, and often it needs explaining, which is a shortcoming on our part. But AX 1800 is the Wi-Fi kind of standard for that device. So AX means Wi-Fi 6, and 1800 means it has the capacity to stream up to 1800 megabytes per second. So
with all the bands put together. So for instance, if your 2.4 does 300 megabits a second, then that would mean your 5 gigahertz could do the other 1500. So whenever you see that number, it's always all of the bands from that router put together. So it's the maximum speed. If you had devices on all the bands, you were pushing through the data as hard as you could, that would be the maximum throughput.
It's like a rating, more or less. And then, so there are multiple devices in our lineup that are AX 1800 that are Wi-Fi 6 with kind of that 1800 megabit per second throughput. So you're going to be looking for, if it's an extender, it'll be an EAX, extender AX, and if it's a router, it'll be an RAX. So keep that in mind as you're on your search. Regarding what Wi-Fi 6 router is going to go with an EAX 1800 extender.
The RAX20.
The RX20, yeah, I would say that would pair the best with it. I would say it's generally smart to kind of pair the two kind of speeds together. So like if you have an AX 1800 extender, get an AX 1800 router. So they're both going to kind of play at the same speed. It would be kind of silly to have an extender that goes faster than your router because it's kind of tied to your router, so it can't go faster than your router, unfortunately. So yeah, I'd say, like Michael said, RX20 would play well with it. Yeah, that should answer your question. Let us know if that wasn't clear. A lot of the kind of explanations of our naming can get a little tricky, so we'll clarify as needed. Okay, Vanessa Kitty asks, are the Wi-Fi 6 extenders still, do they work with the RAXE 500?
Oh, yeah, Christine just pinged me and asked me about that. She was able to clarify that. It was, would a 6E extender work with a Wi-Fi 6 router? And the answer is yes, it would. It just wouldn't be using the 6 gigahertz band.
Yep. Okay. Let's see here. How do I set up a Wi-Fi printer management? Well, that's gonna vary per each, printer. So I can't say for sure. Depends what printer you have. When should the RX E500 be available? I don't have an exact date on when it will be available. I know in 2021 with the pandemic, sourcing is a challenge, and we've been hit with that just as much as every other company has been hit with it. So we do struggle with sourcing a little bit. So, fingers crossed soon. I know our sourcing team is incredible and they're doing their best to get everything back in stock as soon as possible. Definitely sign up for those email notifications though, because a lot of these things go pretty quick, which is a little flattering, but also kind of sad that we can't get everybody what they need. So yeah, stay tuned on the site. Yeah, your best bet is getting it on netgear.com. So hopefully soon. Razer mentions that so far for desktops and laptops, the Intel AX 210 is the only 6E adapter available. It has good compatibility with devices that have an M.2 slot. Well, that's kind of cool that you can upgrade any computer with an M.2, that is, to Wi-Fi 6E. That's a good thing to note.
Yeah, that is.
Texas asks, when is the XR500 getting 3.0?
Already has 3.0. It's in beta. It's in a pretty solid beta, but you can already get it. It's on the forum. We could probably
Yeah, full release, we don't have a date for you, but beta, it is out. Cool.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, it is going to be the full release. Right now, we've just got some bottlenecks on the QA side. So we're working our way through that.
Vanessa Kitty asks, which router should I buy until the RX E500 comes in? I would say just wait for the RX E500. We're talking weeks, maybe a month to 2 months, not years. So I wouldn't say it's worth buying a router to hold you over for just a little bit.
Well, especially if you've got the R9000 right now, that's a nice, powerful router. And if you're not having problems with it, then it'll keep chugging along for a while.
Totally. I'd say hold out. Okay. I think we're all caught up. We're down to the last 13 minutes, so let's get those last questions in. We're happy to answer them. But as a reminder to everybody, leaving a like really does help the channel. It helps the algorithm a lot. YouTube loves those likes, and so if you want to bring more people to the show and bring more people to the VOD after the show is over, definitely drop a like. We really appreciate it. And
Yeah,
let
we
us
just
know.
need 3 people. We got 25 people watching. 17 likes. Just drop three likes in there. Texas, as soon as I find out more on when that's going to be a little bit more solid, I'll be able to talk about it. But right now, yeah, we're developing and also testing 3 different softwares of the Duma 3.0. That's the 500, 700, and the 1000. So there's a lot going on as far as the team. It's a small team, so they're trying their best. So as soon as we get more information, I'll be able to let you know.
Cool. Okay. Looks like
19. We just need one more.
One more like.
And I saw that Vanessa Kitty said that she was asking because she's going to be wiring for the newest in April. Well, that shouldn't matter if you're doing your physical wiring through your house, because the 6E is the wireless portion of it. So as long as you're going with Cat 6 or better Ethernet cabling throughout your house, then you should be fine no matter which router you finally end up plugging in.
Yeah.
Definitely. Cool.
And,
so we're all. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I just wanted to say that it's pretty incredible. Like Vanessa was saying, please like the show, and I really appreciate that. This has been pretty incredible to watch this show sort of grow over the last year, and it really became something that we thought was necessary in the short run of COVID, but here we are, a year later. And I really appreciate the community that's being built around this. You guys are fantastic. So let's.
And it's hard to believe that we've been doing this almost a year.
Yeah,
exactly. I know the official COVID close down was this week. And so I think we started this either next week or the week after that last year.
Yeah, that's true. And you guys have been right there with us. And, there's been some great questions. Man, we should put together if we had more time, we'd put together a clip show of all the great questions. Not one time has Michael been stumped. So a year going, knock on wood.
All right. Yeah. And when we thought we were going to go back into the office, we talked about doing the show in person. So I'm sure once that does eventually happen, the show will be in person with a really cool setup. So there's lots to look forward to for the future of this show. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Stay tuned, and we appreciate all the support.
Yeah. 10 minutes left. Got a few questions. We got a couple minutes for some more questions. Gosh, I wish Angelo's here because he's always good with the filler stuff.
We have one question actually
from Brad.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, let's go. From Brad. Brad says, "Thanks so much for the naming clarifications. RIX20 with the EAX. I'd say RX20 with the EAX20 would be your best bet. I believe there is an EAX20. Is the MK62 the same? The MK62, it serves a similar purpose. It's more of a kit. So you can kind of approach this in 2 different ways. You can kind of build your own kit by, buying a router and an extender individually, or if you just wanted to get the whole thing in a box, you can get the MK62, which is going to be a router and an extender in one box, kind of all at once.
And it is Wi-Fi 6.
And it is Wi-Fi 6. So, you're not really sacrificing anything in that regard. I'm not sure what the MK62 is rated for speed. I think it's about the same as the 20. If you wanted higher speed, the MK80 series is kind of the step up from the MK60.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and that it's rated at AX 1800.
Oh, so basically the same thing. Yeah,
Yep.
basically the same thing. It's funny. We've done some research that antennas tend to indicate to uh, customers that it's a faster product. So the RX-20 is bigger and it has antennas, so you think it's faster, but it's actually the same speed as the MK62. Cool. So, let's see. If I use new cabling, what wiring category should I use? Newest cabling for the RXE 500. I would say anything category 6E or higher, Cat 6.
Yep.
Cat 6 or higher.
Did I say 6E?
Yep.
Cat 6, no E.
Yep. And if you're going to be doing it right now, the Cat 7, the prices are dropping enough that if you can afford it, it might be worth jumping over to that. Going beyond that is not really meant for the home. The Cat 8s, they do a huge amount of throughput in longer runs. So if you were doing it in like a warehouse or something like that. But yeah, Cat 6 or higher. And if the price difference for the runs that you have to do is close enough, then I'd go with Cat 7.
Mhm.
Cool.
All right. Question from Ricky. I have Cat 5e running to a room with 2 new computers. Should I upgrade the wiring, and to what if I should? Ricky, if you're getting good speed and it's consistent, I would say an upgrade is not necessary. It's a bit of a luxury if you want to go from 5 to 6. 6 is becoming very cheap, so it wouldn't cost too much to go to category 6.
I think you could upgrade category 6 for like $20.
Yeah, it's not that expensive.
So
bear in mind though that it's not going to be like you plug in this new cable and all of a sudden you're getting twice the speed. It's going to be a very slight bump, if any. So
yeah, unless you're actually going to be running 10 gig speeds, in which case going to Cat 6 is worth it. But from my own experience, I actually tested a decent quality Cat 5 cable, and then I switched over to Cat 6, and I'm running 10 gig between my PC and my ReadyNAS. And I got almost exactly the same numbers because the Cat 5 cable was quality enough that it had no problems running at those speeds.
Yeah, I'm looking at prices, and you can get Cat 6, 10 feet of Cat 6 in a 6-pack for under $20.
Oh, so cheap. Yeah.
Super cheap. I honestly, if I was you, I'm always nervous about whether or not my cables are good or not. So if you want peace of mind, just pick them up. There's some great color coded kits as well. So you can just look at a glance. White one goes there, red one goes there. $20. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kieran said, would love to see where the show goes when it's in physical form. You're right. None of us actually exist. We're all just computer generated.
We're all computer generated. All right. Question for John.
We missed Josh's question. Here for Duma OS update for 700. No news is good news. It's still in beta. It's probably going to be in beta for a while. But we are working on new firmware. It's just a matter of getting it through QA. I don't have any more information than that.
Cool. Well, I guess
Mods looks like he's saying that Duma with accessibility features.
That is something that has been something that we've been looking at. I don't have any no news about that, but that's always a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Razor's right. Cat 8 bulk cables are expensive. And that's because, they're not that mass market. They're mainly designed for business use. And as soon as you attach the concept of business to anything, you can jack the prices up a lot.
Yep. You could, and also don't fall for the gaming cables. That's or the was it the gold plated HDMI?
Yep. And there one company known for their well known for their cables that I won't mention their name, but yeah, don't buy them. They're not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't
need to Dan,
a diamond cable.
We do normally work in the same building.
Yeah.
But that was more than a year ago now. So I don't know. Can we really say we work in the same building?
Was it normally? Is that normal? Or is this normal?
That's the big question. What's going to be normal in the future?
What's going to be normal? Okay, cool. Well, we're getting down to the last couple minutes of the show here, so get your last questions in. We're probably going to end about a minute early. We got some meetings right after this, so want to make sure everybody's on time. But if anybody has those last questions, get them in, and if not,
If not, they can see the new Darth
Right.
Vader print that I did. There he is, a nice little Darth Vader bust. We can end with that. Oh,
yeah. I saw
How
earlier
is
in the chat that. Oh, sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
like how is the 3D printing coming along?
so far, it's coming along well, except that I scratched the glass bed. And how or why it did it, I don't know. But it tore some of the coating material off of it. So I found out I flipped the bed over, which is just pure smooth glass. It's running much better that way.
Awesome. Oh, and thank you to everybody. 21 out of 25 for today's show.
Very
There
good.
you go.
That's awesome. So
Great
really
stuff.
appreciate it. Good stuff. So like things, wow. Like, question. Do we normally work in the same building? Yes, we do.
Yep.
And it's been really weird not working in the same building with people. Michael, here's a question for you. How are you? Is it different than working in your lab? If you don't know, Michael has his own lab, by the way.
Yeah. And well, yeah, it's good you call a lab and not an office, because if it was an office, I'd have the biggest office in the building. But a lab, it's relatively small. And the biggest difference is I don't have direct access to my hardware. I've got to remember when I actually go into the office, which is very rare, to grab whatever I need and bring it home. So I don't have, that ease of use and being able to dig through the piles of junk that I have there when I need that one, special piece of hardware. So it slowed that portion down. But otherwise, I got my office here tricked out pretty well so I can simulate what I have in my lab.
There you go. Well, we will end with that comment from Michael. He misses his lab.
Yep,
He
I
does,
miss my
he
lab.
does. and everybody give a huge thanks to Christine.
Oh, yes.
Week in, week out, she is back there making sure that this whole thing doesn't, fall on its face. So, we super appreciate her.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll end the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And, for those that don't know, this is a weekly show. So we'll be back next Friday doing the same thing. Hope to see you all there. Until then, have a good weekend. Stay safe and take care.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
See you everyone
everybody.
later.
Bye, everyone.